Okay, so now we're on air.
Still need an invite.
You're trying it, it's still not working.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't see anything in here to make it any kind of public or not. I mean, I did the Google Hangouts on Air thing. And I just clicked through. So I didn't think there was anything I had to do. And because at the bottom there's like a links, and that's where I got, it said like event page or whatever. So that's why, and it looked the same format as James's previous one. So that's where I got it from. There's a lot of different apps in here, but none of them make it. Actually, let me go to the event page, quote unquote. Let's see. I can share it. Let me just refresh the event page, see if there's an option. All right, I guess I can share it by putting it on my Google Plus or something. That's the only thing I can see to do. All right, see if it's still doing it. Like,
that is accessible now.
yeah, so I just have to share it.
Let me see if I can actually watch it, I guess. Yep, that's all good. That is accessible now.
All right, so the trick is you have to share it on your Google Plus circles, apparently. All righty. So we're already 15 minutes over. So I assume that the people who are here are probably no one else is going to be showing up. So I think it's pretty safe to assume we're going to be the people. We already know James and Michael are not going to show up today just because they have other things, and they're just the mentors anyways. So no biggie on that guy. So couple things that I wanted to start off with was I saw James's update on the Express.js.com move that we still have it approved to move it. He's just doing some checks with GitHub to make sure that when we move the repository, it doesn't mess up the DNS and stuff. So he's just kind of waiting to hear back from that, but otherwise, you know, he'll move the repo when it comes to that. Other updates that I've had since the last meeting are, and I don't think, because I said it explicitly here, so I'm just going to say it here because I don't 100% remember, is that I did make from the list that Michael pulled, I made a group in the Express.js org that has the TC members in it. It's called, I think, just Express-TC, same as before. Yep, so we got that going, and I think everybody in there should have like the rights on all the repos in the org, I believe. And that's, the three of us, or the four of us, sorry. The three of everybody, not me, but four total of you guys should be in there. And a few other people who weren't able to join today. So that was kind of like to get us bootstrapped, and just to go over it again, just to make sure we're on the same page. So the idea is that this was just the initial bootstrapping, so all of us are on the TC, and I think committers is the word that's in there from the Express.js, and then what we'll do is as we add new people, we'll just follow the new thing. So anybody new coming in will just be a committer, and then we'll do the same. We'll do what it says, I guess. Just we say, hey, this person should be a TC member, and then everybody's like, yeah, cool, and then they just become a TC member, and we'll just go from there. So that should be pretty simple. So I just want to give an update on that. In relation to that, we also have a fuller governance document. So that was just based off of the collaborator policy. So just like the simple thing, and that came from the Node.js Foundation base. So we also have the governance docs, which are just the base as well. I know I went through them initially a long time ago. I didn't actually completely go over them again because since I had looked over them on the Node.js TSC, had made some tweaks to them, and then I think James updated his pull request to the Express.js repo. I'm sure they're probably fine. I just wanted to check here if the three of you have actually read through them or not. Or even care to read through them, because you may not even care. So I just want to make sure that we all had enough before adding them to there. I just wanted to make sure that anybody who had the chance, who wanted to read through them, have a chance to and comment on them. Because they're flexible, so it's whatever we want to adopt. Basically, they're just the current ones are there as a pull request, and so. The idea is that we'll look at them, just say, seems pretty fine, we'll accept it as a pull request, and then from there point on, we just all, from that point on, anything would be essentially a modification. So we'd probably just all say, most likely a modification would probably just be, it's not super clear, probably at least get a yay from the majority of the TC before making governance changes, just so. That seems to make sense to me, I guess. But all right, yeah. Anybody want to? Does anybody here want to have some extra time just to look at that PR? I'll give the link here.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance yet. If you could link me to it, I'd like to just at least take a quick look at it.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, as long as one person says they want to take a look at it, that's probably good enough. I will give a link here in this, and then I'll also add at the Express TC. Let's see, at Express TC for visibility in there, and then give a link in the chat on here. So yep, what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and we'll try to look at it, and I'll write this out in that pull request as well after this meeting. But I think what we'll do is we'll give a look at it. Unless there's any objections really or much, then we'll probably just take it probably by the next TC meeting. So we'll probably just go and merge it in by the next TC meeting as a thing, and that will get us going on that guy. So that was the main thing I wanted to talk about this meeting, was just to get that rolling there, because I know that I didn't think anybody really looked at it too much, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to look at it before adding it. And yeah, anything before, I have a couple other things I could potentially talk about, so I just wanted to also give a chance for you guys to jump in with anything that you particularly wanted to talk about that you had pressing.
I have one small thing. It's not pressing at all, so it can wait till after you're done with your stuff.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's just the issue somebody raised about the fave icon on the website. I think it would be nice to have. It's not obviously it's not a big deal, but
yeah, I thought about that too. So yes, so Express used to use Connect's fab icon when it was based on Connect. Now it doesn't, and because Express doesn't really even have a logo per se, it really just has the word Express in that font. Technically, if we really wanted to, we could probably make a fab icon being a white square with rounded corners and putting the E and the X on there, and that's it. Like that could be a pretty simple fab icon just to get us started with something if people really feel. I mean, these days, yeah, when you do look in tabs, pretty much everything has a fab icon. So this does feel a little weird. So I mean, that could be something pretty simple we could just do for now. You know, it's just an E and an X, probably. You know, so it seems pretty simple.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me. I mean,
Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, that's something which I can take up. I'll share what I create, and you guys can comment on it.
sounds good.
Yeah, do you know the current typeface of the Express thing on the README? That might be useful as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't have it. I think TJ had made it. If we really wanted to, I mean, at this point, we could pick a font. If we really wanted to, we could pick a font face similar and just use that. In fact, I believe we really should probably do something about that logo, since I believe the logo is on some weird hosting service. Probably we might want to get that logo actually just as an image file on the Express.js.com website and get the README to actually link to that rather than wherever the crap it is now. Yeah, it's on like i.cloudup.com or something, so we'll probably want to move that as well. That should probably be an item that we'll take care of. I'll put that in the notes. I think a long time ago I talked about that, like back in 2014 or something. So I just want to, I forgot all about that, but now that we're talking about it, it reminded me of that. So yes, probably want to get that image to reside somewhere we control, so it doesn't just vanish one day.
Yeah.
So I suppose at that point, I don't really care. I mean, it's up to you guys. If you guys want to just choose a font face that's similar to it, I mean, you know.
Yeah. Maybe Yapa can make a proposal when he looks at it.
All right.
Cool. Another thing I just wanted to go over real quick with the TC, just because it's something that has come up a few times before, and it had come up again, I think, this morning, so it just reminded me of it, and I just wanted to make sure, especially now that we're a new group of people, just to be on maybe like the same page, maybe we all agree, maybe we think different, and just wanted to talk about it. So as far as module support in web browsers, every so often it'll pop up where either one of the modules in there, or even sometimes Express itself, people say, well, I want to be able to use this in a web browser. And typically it pops up because you can usually use them if you use like Webpack or Browserify or something and just bundle it, you know, but whatever. But sometimes they pop up where people want to either use Bower, and so Bower will directly reference our repo. And so what they'll do is they'll want essentially a already minified version of module X inside of the GitHub repo. Historically, we have pretty much said, well, not particularly, and that you can just use like Browserify or Webpack or something and get it if you wanted it. Mainly because the couple reasons that we've had that opinion, well, before, I guess I can go into that, but before I go into that, I just wanted to get everybody's, what your general, at least the people who are here right now, just what your general opinion is on that. And so this is talking about not necessarily like Express, which could run in a browser, but just on generally the modules that are underneath us. Your sentiments on support, like directly having things like web browser builds and stuff as part of them, or how much we should focus on getting them working in the web browser, you know, from either truly supported and like we say it everywhere, or versus it just happens to work, but we don't really mention it. And those are kind of the range. And also, it doesn't have to be necessary. Obviously, some modules could have exceptions or not. So especially because Blake is here, and I know Wes has mentioned it before too. So
Yeah, I can quickly go over what I think should happen. We can go from there. But does that make sense? That people are obviously using in a browser, then those are probably the first things we can visit. But I don't think checking in built scripts makes sense. That always is a lot of pain. Something we could look at doing is having a release script that pushes it up with GitHub releases and then pointing people to GitHub releases where they access a zip. And that actually works with Bower as well. So they just point directly to the zip and then it can be installed from there. And that would be the bundled source code. And that would avoid it having it checked in and having conflicts when people are building and not like confusion around PRs, whether we build this or not and stuff like that. That gets really gnarly. If a module decides that it needs to do that and bundle the browser build, I think we should have at least tests for the browser build as well. And the actual framework or whatever we use to build that come down, we should make an issue for that.
cool.
And yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
Yep, and just to touch on the browser tests, what kind of tests would you expect on there? Like a simple, say, Phantom.js on Travis CI, or more like a test ling or something where it's actually running it in some browsers?
For me, I guess we could try to figure out how to do the full browser thing, but for me it'd be enough to have Phantom.js part of the CI process and make sure that it just isn't failing, at least on like a Chrome-like environment. If it requires more, I know there's some things like set prototype of use case which is used in the router. That might be an interesting thing to try to test, but I don't think a lot of our modules will need the full spectrum of coverage.
Cool. So it sounds like we're pretty much on the same page. You know that the biggest thing in my mind is I really don't want to check in like a built script, because usually I have found even in I've seen even in repos where they actually build them as like the author wants to, frequently the author will forget even to rebuild it, and then people are like filing issues and like, oh, you didn't upgrade the browser build, and it's like, oh gosh, yes, I didn't, and then we have to go through all that. Especially these days when you have stuff like, I feel like especially these days when people have things like Browserify Webpack and all that kind of stuff that like even like require JS as even a simple one, like pretty much almost makes it unnecessary. The biggest problem I've seen is mainly people using Bower, since it's expecting the files to just be plopped from GitHub repos, and then they're just using browser and then loading up those files like directly in the web browser. So for example, there's a discussion on one issue from this morning. It's in the JS HTTP repo where they basically want to just add an if conditional around the exports and say if there's no exports object, add them to window, which seems like it will work. Of course, as soon as someone drops, I feel like if someone drops by that, the fact that there's window in there makes it look like you support the web browser, whether or not we even test it, like even in something like Phantom.js. But also, of course, it now constricts that module to never be able to easily have a dependency. Very easy, because, of course, now you can't just use a require statement in that file. Which I found personally a little irritating when I've maintained a couple other modules out there from former TJ modules that's not in these orgs but just out there, and they were in that component system, which is deprecated. People using the web browser, and I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to have this dependency. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a pain with component and Bower, because they just plop everything and don't let you like truly build with like a common JS thing. So I just wanted to kind of get everybody's feel on that. Don't need a hard statement. I just wanted to get everybody's kind of feel on browsing. It sounds like it's just like, well, we can certainly support the browser, in a module. Probably it would have to make sense for the module, and then we'd probably just leave it towards running your own bundler versus checking in like a pre-bundled thing into the source. Or we could look at, as Blake suggested, some kind of like thing with this GitHub releases or something. I'd probably have to understand more details of that, but that sounds like a possible another option if we really want to, support that for that module. Because a lot of these modules, are pretty simple, and a lot of them could work in the browser, and I know people do use them, but typically they just use Browserify without issues. So that was the main thing. One of the main things I wanted to just bring up. I don't know, Blake, if you have anything. Oh, Wes asked if he could hop on the actual call about browser stuff. So unless anybody has objections or wants to get something else discussed and out of the way first, because probably that might take up a bunch of time. So if anybody has something, please. So let me know if you have anything you want to get discussed first. Otherwise, we could probably just do that.
Okay, Doug?
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about JS HTTP, are we getting access to those other orgs?
Yes. So I just need to do that. Everybody who's in the TC and Express.js, I just need to make the same. I will be making the exact same. It'll just be called Express TC in all of them, because that will make it easier for if they do ever split off. But I just need to make that group and invite everybody, and you will all be the same access, right? So owners in it, with access to all the repos. So, and that was going to be the simple structure. Sorry, I left it out in the initial thing. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is right now it'll just be over the 3 orgs, just flat structure, until it's necessary to do something different, basically.
Okay. And then there are a few pull requests on Express.js org, which looks like they could be landed, but they haven't been. So is it something which we would be able to take clear action on after our next TC meeting, or do you have something to say about those pull requests?
Sorry, what was the question? I know you said pull requests, but I wasn't sure if there was.
Right. So there are some pull requests which look like they could be landed in the current state, but it's not. They are not landed yet. So is it something which we will have a clearer way to deal with after the next TC meeting, or you have some comments to make on those pull requests which are just lying there?
Gotcha. You're talking about in the actual main Express repo, is that correct?
Yep.
Yes. So most of them that aren't landed just need to be landed into the 4.14 branch. I did make it. I haven't actually put anything on there, but yes. I think pretty much, especially all the one, there's a bunch that were done simply for 5.0, which I haven't particularly looked at yet.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you do look at it, what we can easily do is just put an. Also, if you want to now, I don't know if we have to do the LGTM specifically. Now that they have the emotions, I haven't even thought about it, but I think now what I'm talking about. I put those stupid little emotions so people can stop +1ing a thing these days. We might potentially be able to use something like that as well to indicate our vote on if we do it on the main guy. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but yes. So as far as their actual status, real quick before we talk about the emotes here, is that I just have to put them on the damn branch.
Okay.
and then the 5.0 branch, and then we should be able to cut a 5.0 pretty soon. If the 4.14, we could probably just cut. I don't think that there's anything particularly notable about it, but that doesn't necessarily matter. It's usually just about having it updated. So there's the optimized JSON stringify, so we just got to stick that on 4.14. There's the rec.ip's use of pop over slice. I mean, it looks uglier, but I mean, I guess it's faster, so whatever, I guess. um, then there's the triple equals instead of double equals. That was kind of left there. We didn't usually take those kind of PRs, but I mean, whatever. I guess we'll just take it. Otherwise, people will keep making the PR, so that's why I left that one open. We'll land that one on 414. There's the change res.links thing. I haven't particularly looked at that guy. I think in general it looked fine. I know that initially when it was talked about, I did want to make a JS HTTP module for it and land it that way. There was the links module was already taken. I was going to ask the person who owned that if they really cared about it anymore, but never got around to that. I mean, we'll probably just land it inside of Express anyways, so I don't think there was much comments on that besides the one that was there and he updated it. Since he had updated it, I didn't look at it. I was just looking at what's in there, so I just probably will review that. I actually just, while we were talking, I made the Express TC org and invited who wasn't in the org into the pillar.js so far. Let's work on the JS HTTP next. So that's basically the 4.x one. So, and then what I was thinking about doing too, so I've been also thinking about how to provide especially clarity to what is about to be released, mainly to the TC, but also just to everybody, right? So we'll use the pull request release method. So when I put something on that branch, I'll make a pull request for the release essentially, so we can have a good overview of what's in it. And then I was thinking that probably what I would do is that before making the release, probably say like, hey, seems release complete. We'll probably like at the TC people and probably then give it like, 48 hours by default unless there's something urgent about it. Just to make for sure that there isn't any like, oh, maybe we should put this in there, or oh, maybe we shouldn't land this or something. So I think that that's probably how we'll go about that, unless anybody thinks otherwise. It seems like a fine plan to me. And I was going to do that in probably in the other repos as I land new versions. Just do the same kind of thing. Obviously, you don't have to respond. That's why I was saying like 24 to about 48 hours. So if you don't respond, I mean, it's probably just implicit. If you do think that you want to, we'll probably do it like if you do think you want to respond but don't have time to look at it, probably just put that in a note there. Be like, hey, I don't have time to look at this right now, but I do want to look over it before it's landed, right? And then what we'll do is we'll probably give you like at least 24 hours from that to go look at it and say whatever. So that way you can at least, you don't have to feel like you're pressured within a certain amount of time. So it's really just to get the initial thing. And I think mostly everybody gets emails from GitHub, so that should be good enough to be able to get our say in about what's in the release, if that sounds good. Cool. Any other questions, concerns?
Okay, Doug, there's one more.
Yeah.
Let me paste the link here. I'm trying to understand if there's something's wrong with the setup, or there's something wrong with the code.
Oh, this is on the app voyeur. So
Yep.
What I have seen when it does this is that for some reason, some app voyeur machines seem to mess up when it runs npm install. I have historically, and I'll do that on here, I historically just log in to the app voyeur, and unfortunately it sucks because app voyeur doesn't let you do freaking org owned builds, which is lame. Like Travis CI does. Usually I'll just go in here and I'll just hit restart on them. So typically I'll usually expend that effort when we're on the actual one that's committed, so the build stays green. And eventually I do want to figure out what the frick's the problem with this thing at some point. Though, yeah, it's all red, in fact, on that build, so that's kind of lame.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's usually that's as far as that one goes. So, wait, did you just? Oh, I went to the wrong job. Sorry, I was looking at a job that literally was all broken. I just had comment on that earlier. This is the dust one. Let's just take a look here. I just want to see if if I'm making the. I just want to make sure. Yeah, because part of them are failed, part of them didn't fail, and it's just freaking random. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Like I said, I'll just hit rebuild on it. Hopefully it works this time. But yeah, at some point, I think there's an issue open for looking at the app voyeur thing. But yeah, it's only that npm install command is the issue. And I wish it wasn't. The reason why we tested, in case you're wondering, on app voyeur is just because typically what I'll do for these modules is that if it's just a straightforward module like pure JS, not doing anything, especially with the file system or anything, then I'll just do it on Travis CI. It's easier. Usually I'll only add app voyeur as another testing if it's doing like file system manipulation, right? So we know that we're not messing up with like the fact that Windows likes backslashes instead of forward slashes.
Okay.
And stuff like that, and like especially because like an Express generator is on there because it's like a system command and doing a bunch of stuff with the file system. So that's the only reason that's even there. So I hope that kind of clears up why we're doing that. Same with like on Express because it has like the send file command is doing file nonsense. So
yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, otherwise for that build, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. The Travis CI will be the main one. Because typically, if you messed up with Windows, it would be all of the Windows builds would just fail. You know, if it's just some of them, it's probably that stupid bug. I really want to take a look into that more, figure out what the heck's going on with it. In fact, I saw a pull request go through Node.js recently that fixed the issue with like running shells on Windows. So now you can specify that the type of your spawn or whatever is a shell spawn. And it will handle that better, I think. So that could be what the problem is. And then if that's the case, we can always make app voyeur just run on that version of Node Plus and then leave it at that. Because it's usually for the file system, we usually don't have to test all the Node versions in app voyeur just because we'll get those versions at virtue from Travis CI. So hope that kind of answers that up there. I did look at the dust, and I think that's why I think I commented on that guy. So, and I think that there isn't any pending issues on that actual pull request. So, and in fact, we didn't do a release for Express. I never did a release for Express Generator on the since we did like a patch on Express. So we can easily reset again. Of course, when we release Express 4.14, then we'll release the Express generator as well. So I think there's that stupid issue about apparently Jade renamed its crap to Pug.
Yeah.
So we'll probably want to do something about that in the Express generator too.
Yeah.
Annoying.
I'll take care of that.
Awesome. Yeah, because I think TJ either made Jade or did a lot of stuff with Jade, one of those two, because he certainly promoted Jade all over the place. So Express is, I see Express used a lot with Jade. So that makes the fact that it got renamed even more work here. In fact, that issue that was brought up was when I first even knew about that. Cool. Any other things you guys want to talk about here? If Wes is still around, we'll probably. Otherwise, if Wes is still around, we'll probably invite him in to share his thoughts on the browser builds.
It's up to you, but we can talk about the router stuff sometime as well. I don't know if there's any sort of resolution happening on any of those pull requests. But we can do that after the browser discussion.
Yeah, we should probably talk about that a little bit, especially with like the thing around the whole refactoring thing for the the engine-based thing. I know we talked a little bit about that as well. So we probably that's like the main reason why it's just been sitting there, because we just need to figure that out more. So definitely want to talk about that at some point. So cool. So Wes, if you just want to swap over, I see you already did. So all right. So what are your thoughts on the browser? Yep.
Okay, sweet. So there's one major thing, and I think I brought this up on the router repo a while back when I was originally talking about the project I was doing, which was using the router in the browser. To get the testing working well, we'd probably need to sign up for multiple Sauce Labs accounts. So they have a free thing for open source. The Travis integration is pretty easy. I can link you guys what I did with Nighthawk, which is the wrapper on the Express router for the front end. Pretty easy to do. I could go through the repos and see what is capable of browser support, open issues on them if that's something you guys would like, and then follow up those issues with pull requests, integrating those. The solution I have is using Mocha for testing framework. These kind of tools are sometimes difficult to all get playing nice together. So I know that one works, and I've got that running in Travis and Sauce Labs. It also has like badges and stuff like that, so we can actually advertise browser support. And then I think I went through all three orgs, and there's really not that many things that we'd want to advertise browser support for. But the ones that are there are a lot of the core, most important, most used ones. So.
Cool. I think that sounds generally fine, especially if you find that there's a whole lot of the repos. It may be desirable to just, if you wanted, you could always make a global issue in the discussions board, just listing them all if you wanted to do that, rather than making like a bajillion issues.
I actually maybe have already done that. Maybe not on the Express.js one. I think I maybe did it on the Pillar one. But I don't know if anybody looked at that one.
Well, I've looked. I mean, I'm subscribed to all of them. It's probably been a while, so I had completely.
I did not. I remember making this issue somewhere. I'll have to find it. I could move it to the main Express discussions one if that's what you want.
Yep, that seems fine.
Okay. Yeah. No, other than that, the main thing that I do with these modules when I'm trying to get good both browser and node support is I usually tag my tests that are either browser specific or node specific with. I usually like prefix with all caps browser : or all caps node, and then run Mocha with like a grep. It's a pretty simple thing, and I don't know if that's something that I think there's a few other things that are using Chai and the QUnit format of Mocha and all that stuff. I assume that all works with all those, but I haven't tested it, so that'll be an experience.
Yeah, because the most experience I've had with kind of doing browser testing on there is with my DEPD module, just because it would use V8 specific APIs. So I mean, yes, the browser doesn't really do much, but it does at least kind of test it, though not in TestLing. Just I think still within Node. But that was the most I've done personally. I know that I have coworkers at work who do all this stuff all the time, and I haven't really poked at them to figure out.
I have poked at my coworkers who do this, and they have just as much pain as I've had. But I think I can get it pretty solid for most of the modules that I see as clear candidates for browser support. I've looked through them before, just never opened up specific issues. And then the only other thing would be there's a few modules that are like close to what you might use in the browser, but would probably be more of a candidate to do like a targeted browser build. So you can do things like for Browserify and Webpack with the browser field in the package.json. I don't know if that's something you guys would be interested in me going around and kind of fleshing out, but like a clear example would be the methods module. There's some methods that just are not browser supported, and so my port of the router still actually registers those methods as methods on the router, even though you can't actually use them in a reasonable way in the browser. So it'd be nice to like expose a slimmed down list of ones that are maybe supportable via XHR requests or stuff like that. Again, that's mostly if you guys are interested.
I think I did that pull request a couple of years ago, actually.
Oh, really? Maybe I just haven't seen it on there.
Let me check. But that's all good. Yeah, that makes sense. It'd be awesome if you open issues and like anything that I think as much as runs in browsers and if it looks like it should run in a browser, then like open an issue. That sounds amazing if you can get a workflow that works.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Yep, that sounds good because I know that a lot of people do a lot of browser stuff. So sounds like especially if we have people willing to help with putting this effort forward, like it definitely sounds agreeable to me then.
Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Because yeah, pretty much I would say like as long especially if we can do it without being like some crazy pain or some crap. Like if it's pretty straightforward, just do this, and especially if we can get like, because that was like what I thought about it was especially if we can get tests. So people like me or someone who's not super familiar with like especially a lot of especially some weird quirks or something, or might really just accidentally break it in the browser. At least we'll like be aware. We'll know it a lot easier. Because I think that's really like to me almost like my main concern is just making sure that I don't, especially when we accept PRs, that we're not accidentally just breaking it for people who might be, be like, oh yeah, it works in the browser, so I will use it in the browser, and then next thing you know, they update it and they're like, oh, it's broken.
Yep.
And then we're like, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't mean to break it. And now we have to do like a patch and release and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I definitely don't think anything should be quote-unquote browser supporting until it has fully running tests and a nice badge on the front that says which browsers. So,
right.
And I don't think that we need, across the board, saying a certain level of browser support is pretty silly at this point. I'd say it'd be more like, get each module working in some subset of browsers. We don't need to go and make drastic changes to do like, some IE support. Luckily, most of that is deprecated at this point anyway. Like the original thing that I brought up with the set prototype of, actually at this point is probably not even a real thing anymore for most people. It's still there in IE9, so I'm sure somebody's supporting it and probably using Express in there, somewhere, some module for it. But whether we need to go and do any work to do that kind of thing, I think is probably not necessary.
Exactly. Yeah, because like I said, even like doing quote browser support at this point, like even just saying like the most recent Chrome is already fine. Then if we say, oh yeah, let's go see if we could add the latest Firefox to the model or something, and then be like, okay, it's pretty simple, let's do it, or whatever. And like obviously, if someone asks for something, we can evaluate it. Is what I figure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not too hard to get the major browser supports right now anyway. Pretty much everything that I would put on the list right now is probably already compatible. It's just a matter of actually getting the test running in the browser.
Exactly.
So.
Cool.
Yep.
Sweet. I think that pretty much wraps that up. Anybody else has any topics they want to bring up? Otherwise, I think this is probably it for now. It's 1 hour from the original start time, so cool. Also, real quick, since if anybody doesn't have anything else, just I wanted to pass by at least the people who are here. just to be aware of, I know I didn't see too much objection from that discussion that was in the thing about the time, where we changed it to pin it to UTC. I didn't really personally have any objections. I mean, it works a little. It just all it did was move it an hour later in the evening for me, which actually, kind of makes it even easier to attend. So I didn't have any personal objections, but I just wanted to make sure that you don't have to necessarily bring it up in here, but just please bring it up either in this or when I end here, I'll make the next week's one. So please bring it up there if you want to revisit the time decision. It was really convincing, especially because I saw pretty much only the U.S., Europe, and a part of Australia even do DST, and they do it at different times anyways. So moving it with US DST or just not doing it with DST already just makes it all over the place for everybody anyways. So probably UTC is the least of the evils, most likely. So.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I was just going to say one thing because last week, basically no one was around, and I was just going to ask whether we wanted to have the meetings weekly or bi-weekly would be sufficient, or if there's any thoughts on that.
I don't have any particular thoughts. I would basically say it's really like if we say like, oh yeah, well maybe 2 weeks is at this point in time seems to be a good balance because we don't want to have it too frequent. If we don't need to, right? Otherwise, we'll just have a bunch of meetings where we're just like, I don't know what to talk about, or worse, we'll just end up canceling it, and then of course that's kind of lame.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really wanted to avoid, having a situation like last week, for people like Yapa who have to get up in a very ungodly hour. So.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it seems like bi-weekly might be fine. What I'll do then is I'll just make the meeting I'll skip next week, make the meeting for the week after, and then I'll put that in there as well. So also any of the TC members who didn't attend this one can provide their feedback if we want to do weekly or not. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably just have it we'll just default to just at least trying the bi-weekly, and maybe that's fine or not, and then just probably play it by ear, I think, if that makes sense for everybody.
Yeah, I think that sounds fine.
Awesome. All right, well, I think that wraps up today's meeting.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Doug.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
See ya.